Hello and welcome to Stuck in the Elevator Pitch. We're the two dudes and we like to talk. So here, the only way we can elevator pitch is when we get stuck in it. So buy a ticket and take a seat in the hot, sweaty metal box of this podcast as we pitch to you our DC theatre show. Here we are again, stuck in a lift, but this time you have seating.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit bigger. You can fit
like
three seats in it.
Yeah, so you guys can sit in the audience and just watch us crazily talk.
Yeah.
But yes, so should we get into it?
I'm looking forward to both telling you about mine and hearing yours, to be honest, because this is us back to our roots, so it'll be interesting to see how we do.
I'm quite interested to see what yours is, and I'm quite excited to tell everyone mine. So, let me set the scene, if you will. The audience enters into an in-the-round performance space. They are intimate with a central stainless steel table, and already we see the Joker seated and handcuffed to it. He is washed in a bright white light and is nearly motionless. Around the stage and audience seating bit, there are a series of screens. Some of them are showing different CCTV angles of the Joker, filmed live.
I like that.
And others are just sort of background. There's just some graphics on them, but they'll come into play a bit later. Mm-hmm. The idea for the Jokermas, I would like him to have long hair, specifically for the visual of when people come in, the long hair is covering his face. Yeah. Anyway, to go with this Joker, it's makeup on face, so very much like Heath Ledger, I think, in the way the makeup is peely, and this is a battle scarred Joker, as you'll see why in a minute. Once the audience has entered, the lights go down and the show begins. The CCTV cameras remaining on to give a sort of muted glow to the space. And over the audio, they hear a voice. This is Commissioner James Gordon of the GCPD. We have a situation, and I'm calling out in the hopes of developing our knowledge of that situation. We have uncovered a major terrorist plot targeting Gotham City, which we believe to be conceived, incited, and executed by the Joker prior to him being brought into custody by GCPD officers yesterday. There is no cause for alarm, and we are confident that we can protect our great city. What we need from you is to report any missing persons, anyone who isn't answering the phone or hasn't turned up, and all within the past 24 hours. We believe that many of these citizens could be in serious danger, and knowing who is missing may lead us to a pattern of behaviour. Gotham citizens, be strong. We will be giving more communication shortly. Stay vigilant, stay home, and stay safe. The lights stay off as we're in silence, and a beep begins, and flashing up on those blank previous screens is a 1 hour timer, which begins to tick down. 59, 58, 57. The ticking noise begins to fade down as Commissioner Gordon enters the space. He sits opposite Joker, who remains silent and unmoved, and he basically begins to monologue, explaining the situation to the audience. So the Joker has a myriad of hostages held around Gotham, and they need to find out their location quickly, or they're at serious risk. What they have just discovered moments before Commissioner Gordon has walked in is that the first hostage they located was found with an enormous bomb which would blow up a significant portion of the city, killing hundreds if not thousands depending on our size of Gotham. Bruce Wayne is one of the figures who has already been reported missing following Commissioner Gordon's report.
No.
So Batman is not coming to help. Along with Bruce Wayne, there are several other influential figures like the mayor and other people like that. But there's also some, what we would consider nobodies, some just citizens who have just been pulled up into all this. And I like the idea that they share names with the famous people. as if they've been punished for sharing that name.
Wow, yeah.
Throughout the course of the show, we see a series of people entering the one gangway that is present to enter the space and leave the space. The idea of the performance space I imagine this in is a warehouse-sized performance, but with only, say, 100 seats surrounding this table. So there's huge amounts of empty space at either edge. So you can hear people walking from one end of a room to another to enter this space. So you know when a scene's about to end because you can hear the footsteps starting to come. The 4 characters who enter the space, plus maybe a couple of police officers at different points. We have Commissioner Gordon, who is enraged and frustrated by the constant laughter and his inability to get anything out of Joker, who just laughs at him. The Joker does not speak a single word to Commissioner Gordon for the entire performance. He just laughs. And I would like to do something with the ticking noise and the laughter and playing that up and doing a lot in terms of sound design and creating a tick, tick, tick interlaced with that laughter. And I think the sound is, again, really, really important for pulling you into the space. That ticking, that laughter. The only real 2 sounds we hear along with the footsteps. Another character we have is Dr. Hugo Strange, who is fascinated by the Joker's psychological state. This is the first time that Joker has ever been captured. This is the day after some sort of serious police chase or serious incident that led him to be captured. And of course, Hugo is fascinated, wants to dive deep into the Joker's psyche and understand more about him. And we'll come back to more about Hugo in a second. The Joker is willing to talk to Hugo, but in the way that Hugo is trying to analyze the Joker is also analyzing Hugo. And we get a taste of the idea that there is something far more sadistic within the mind of Dr. Hugo Strange, a darker reasoning to care, because as fans of comics or the Arkham games, in fact, no, Hugo Strange is also a bad guy. Not that will come into play in this show, but just the idea there's something wrong with both the patient and the psychiatrist. The next character who'll make an appearance, storming in, is Robin, Dick Grayson.
So he's Robin, not Nightwing?
No, this is just... He might be of Nightwing age, so maybe he would be... It doesn't really matter for the purposes of this, because he's just Dick Grayson. But what's very important is, so he comes in and slams a device down on the table, and then talks to Joker for a couple of seconds before lifting his hand and stepping back. And as we do, we see, one by one, the CCTV cameras shutter off. So Robin is alone with the Joker, who has taken Batman. This is not a calm, collected Robin. This is a passionate, caring Robin who is ready to kill and torture the Joker, if you will. Much like that fateful scene in The Dark Knight with the Joker in his prison cell. But the Joker is, just in a way similar to that scene, just enjoying it, just loving it. And Robin slips. Robin makes a mistake, because it becomes clear to the Joker over the course of this conversation that it is only Bruce Wayne that Robin cares about. He may, for example, notice an injury to Robin, which he himself inflicted in the previous day or so.
To Dick Grayson.
To Dick Grayson, and thus put 2 and 2 together. This is Robin or Nightwing, and this is Grayson. And as the scene with Robin comes to an end, he begins to tell a story of a Robin who flew too close to the sun and got burned. Something like that. He begins to tell a tale or whatever before quiet laughter growing into more. As Commissioner Gordon enters the room to see what happened with the CCTV, we see Robin figure it out. The Joker doesn't want Batman dead. He wanted Bruce Wayne dead. So he has told Robin where to find Bruce Wayne so that he can continue his dance with Batman.
Oh, that's...
Robin figures it out. Something in the clue, so if he's burned, maybe it's a like a coal burning place or something like this. Robin is off. Dick Grayson is off. I also like the idea of him making dick jokes at him for being called Dick Grayson. Commissioner Gordon finds the device on the table because Robin is left in such a rush.
Yeah.
And again, we're just tipped off to a bit of a wink and a nudge that maybe he always knew that Dick Grayson was Robin, but he just like puts it in his back pocket or something, and it turns off and the cameras come back on.
Yeah.
Then we have a return. We have, again, more to and froing with Commissioner Gordon, unable to get anything out of him. We have more of Hugo Strange and their little dance as well. Mm-hmm. But this time, Hugo Strange makes a mistake. Ooh. He thinks the Joker is on a level with him. He thinks he's got through. He thinks he's made progress until he steps just too close. I like the idea also that there is a tape line around the Joker of how close you're supposed to get. Of course, Dick Grayson disregards this entirely, but Hugo Strange, Commissioner Gordon are very aware that this is danger zone. Don't step in until Hugo Strange thinks he can trust him. He steps over the line and is just absolutely twatted in the head with Joker's head. He just headbutts him and he's just not gushing blood, but he's just bleeding everywhere.
Yeah.
And we just see him run out. Again, we have more Commissioner Gordon. We think we're coming to the end. The timer is ticking down. And they have one more psychological attempt.
Here we go.
Here enters Dr. Harleen Quinzel.
Yep.
A newbie psychiatrist who was basically the only other person working that day. And the Joker is mesmerized. She walks around a room trying to move around, and he just follows like an owl with his head. Not literally because he can't turn around, but he is just spinning. He cannot take his eyes off her. He is in love. And as the timer begins to tick down, she notices. She is, again, just as smart, just as witty and cunning, but not evil.
Yeah.
She has a good soul, a good heart, and makes a choice. A choice that if she gives herself to the Joker, he will let everyone go. And it is a risk that she takes. And as the final counter ticks down, we see the Joker basically cough again, or remove from his mouth in some way a hidden device.
Yeah.
And as she said, I'll go with you if you let everyone go. I'll come with you. I won't fight. I'll come and do whatever. Yeah. He puts it on the table, lets himself out of the handcuffs, proving he was never in them at all, and presses the button. Because he has what he came here for. He has Harley Quinn.
No.
And as they walk out of the doors, the laughter echoing, and this is where the sound design will come in again, the echoing and reverberating, we see Commissioner Gordon running in, realizing they're gone, and there is nothing he will ever do to stop them. And that's the end of the show. Or maybe the last thing would be we have a walkie-talkie or something saying that the bombs are off, the bombs have stopped. Dick Grayson found Bruce Wayne just in time, but the bomb stopped before we could get him out of there. Something like that.
That, as a concept, is mesmerising.
I want it.
Yeah, I want to write it. James, we need to write this. This is now the end of. When we finish this, we need to actually sit down and go, right, how can we make this possible? Even if we don't, I want it needs to happen, simple as. Okay, I've got a question for you. You keep saying Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
When he goes to interrogate the Joker, is he as Dick Grayson or is he as Robin?
No, he's as Dick Grayson. He's casual. And that's again the
why
thing.
Because he only cares about Bruce Wayne, it then gives that, Bruce Wayne's important. Obviously, more than his, carer and the person who adopted him and his adopted father, but there's a... Because
but what, he noticed it following... Again, he doesn't know that that Dick Grayson is the adopted son,
Yeah.
is any of that. He sees an injury that only he could have inflicted, and a care for Bruce Wayne, and he takes the risk, not knowing it's Bruce Wayne, but takes the risk that I can't kill Batman. Yeah. Oh my god, no! Go and save him. And he just gives a subtle hint, a nod, if you will, from the Joker to Robin that Commissioner Gordon doesn't understand.
No.
That he needs to save him, and he does. The reason I wanted Bruce Wayne kidnapped is so you know that Batman isn't going to show up. He's done.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing way of doing it, to be honest. Because I was wondering, okay, how are you going to have this fiasco, and not have Batman just save the day, and explain why Batman hasn't just saved the day? And I think honestly, he did it in a brilliant way because he is vulnerable as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, but the whole idea is, this is a show that it's about Commissioner Gordon, and it's about Dick Grayson, and it's about Hugo Strange, and about Harley Quinn. But you just watch the Joker. You watch the Joker just tear people apart.
Yeah, he
is the best psychiatrist in Arkham.
This is where you see, just like with Batman, his greatest asset is the fact that he's the best detective. The Joker, his greatest asset is his mind. He is so intelligent, and he's so he can manipulate people so easily. And like, people say, well, why is, like, a lot of people I've heard argue against whether Joker's the greatest Batman villain because of the fact that he can be beaten physically so easily. Yeah. But that's not the point. It's not about the physical aspects of the Joker. It's his mind. And I think having Hugo Strange there is a brilliant way of showing that.
Yeah.
Because you can almost have that almost like playing in the... You feel like, okay, well, Hugo Strange feels like he's coming out on top, and it shows that he, it looks like he's winning and he's getting through to him, and then literally, and there's this to and fro, and then literally at the end, as you say, he just flips it on a dime and goes, oh no, I've been toying with you.
Yeah, and I do like the idea that Joker has got himself captured. Again, just like he does in The Dark Knight, the capture is deliberate. He does not get captured out of choice. He's captured because he wants Harley Quinn. And he wants to take this person, and the only way to get her into the room with him is be captured on this day when she's the only other person working.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. The clock is on. They have to send someone in there, and she's all they've got. Yeah. And he knows she will come with him to save people's lives.
Oh man, like.
Yeah.
It's genius.
I want it. I just love. From the audience perspective, I love the intimacy of an in-the-round performance, but in this enormous space where the shouts and the slams will echo and reverberate. That's the word I'm trying to get out of my mouth. And again, playing with sound in this space, you can make people hear whatever they want, whatever you want them to hear.
And you can have conversations that are just almost like normal conversations that will echo completely throughout the whole thing. Behind the stage, so like maybe before Harley Quinn comes out, there's a conversation between the two of them, and it's almost like it lets on to the fact that this is like of how coincidental it almost is. How like you almost want the audience when Harley Quinn is not introduced, but when Harley Quinn's about to come on to go, well, this is just all a bit coincidental. Almost thinking it's almost like, well, this is a bit lazy writing, before revealing that no, the reason why it's all coincidental is because Joker had this plan from the start. He's like, he's not just one step ahead of everyone else in the story. He's one step ahead of the audience.
Yes.
That's like, and that you can easily do that with the sound of the piece, the way that the space works. I think it's a really interesting way of doing it in terms of in the round, because you get people like the symbolism of everyone gets a different point of view. Is brilliant when you've got so many different characters almost interrogating this one person, that it just, the audience's different point of views mimics the different point of views from all the different characters. I think it's genius having the CCTV as a way of showing the footage though, because the one worry about the round is always there's going to be someone whose viewpoint is looking at the back of his head. But with the CCTV, it creates an in-world way of showing what's actually happening.
My one idea for that was just an easy way around it is the gangway is just, rather than where you would expect it to be, and I'm sure most people imagined it as in
front of him.
In front of him, you just put it behind, so there's no one actually sat. It's where characters enter from.
Yeah.
And they have to walk all the way around, which is another way. But yeah, the CCTV, seeing it from a different perspective, seeing not just seeing the different perspectives, but seeing how this is being perceived from the outside. Yeah. You almost take on both a role of someone in the room, but also someone out the room.
Yeah.
In the audience, and you're seeing all the different ways this is. One of the things that was really... So one of the things that frustrates me about the way they do franchise theatre, if you will, is... And speaking of The Doctor, they've done a couple of things with Doctor Who, and it's always this interactive, you're part of it. And I think they've got the right idea of immersion. I think you want to feel like you're part of it, the in the round style. But I think being in it, I just want to be able to watch. I want to see a narrative play out differently. And
and I think also the interactive element of it as well is the fact that in many ways the audience are the citizens of Gotham.
Yes,
they're just the people watching. They are helpless, just like almost Commissioner Gordon is completely helpless. Like that involves them in it. I agree with you. I do feel like a lot of franchise theatre either just sort of has to have it interactive because at the end of the day, well, what else do they want to do? Well, at the end of the day, people watch these franchises in the movies because they want to watch the narrative play out. They want to watch how it all works. And I think you've also avoided the other issue that I think a lot of franchise theatre sort of puts out is that the need to recreate the special effects.
Yes.
You've avoided it. And I think that's brilliant.
I think the Batman universe is rich and ripe for low-tech theatrical production in terms of other ideas I had while going into the idea of a DC theatre show was just basically just looking at any Batman villain and thinking, how do you make a story? You could make the political rise and fall of Harvey Dent and Two-Face. You could have a nightmare performance based off Scarecrow.
Yeah.
You could do so many different things. A mob or gang violence thing with the Penguin at the heart of it. And I think the biggest thing for me was taking Batman off the table. I don't think anyone wants to see someone in a bat suit rock up onto the stage and sort of like waddle around for a bit.
This is almost why I also asked about Dick Grayson, is because the other thing you've managed to do, I know the Joker will be obviously classic look and you'll be able to recognise him as the Joker, but you've avoided any controversy almost. You've like gone, yes, okay, the Joker's look is the Joker's look, but there's been so many Jokers that you can almost create your own Joker now and it won't look too dissimilar, whereas having to create a Nightwing costume or a Robin costume would create a lot of
debate,
argument. Exactly.
Oh, it looks crap, it looks good.
Whereas if you just go, this is Dick Grayson, it avoids all that.
Yeah, one of the things with the Joker specifically is the reason I don't talk too much about what his costume would look like is because his costume needs to be seen not on a movie screen, not in a movie trailer, not on a poster, but on a stage. How does it look when you're sat 6 feet, 10 feet from it? And I think that's something that, again, would be a huge part in the production design process, would be trying all these different looks and seeing what it looks like. And I do like green hair, purple suit. Mm-hmm. But does it have to be a suit? Is it a shirt with trousers that are purple? So it's less obvious. More, I think, playing around with all these things.
Well, I think, and that's the thing. I think the other side of it as well is that if you look at the likes of cosplay, and now cosplay is brilliant, and there's some really good ones out there, but quite often they look out of place. Because the thing that I think a lot of people overlook is the fact that these costumes are made for the look of a film. You know, Nolan's Heath Ledger Joker is for the look of that film, which is why you can't completely replicate it for other films. You know, it's why Jared Leto's couldn't look a certain way. And I think in real life, if you were to look at this unedited, unfiltered costume, it would look bizarre and a bit almost off-putting to the eye. Whereas by going, okay, well, putting something on stage, you need it to be bold, not bright, but bold enough so people can recognise it even from afar, but also realistic or in-world realistic enough for it to not look out of place, which is why a purple suit next to all the other characters who are in white or little bits of red, or like a massive trench coat, which I'm imagining for James Gordon, would look out of place. So yeah, I think honestly the idea is absolutely, I mean, I said it earlier, mesmerising. It's just brilliant. It's a psychological analysis which would be really difficult to read but amazing to watch.
Yes, it harkens back to any good interrogation scene, and the idea of, you've got one in The Dark Knight. I'm trying to think of others off the top of my head. I thought of loads of them while I was coming up with this. But the idea of just having a psychopath in the room, and you're just doing your bit, but there's so much at stake, and there's so little you have control over, even though Commissioner Gordon is running the scene, but he's not.
That's the thing. I think actually one of the things that it reminds me of, to switch properties for a second, it reminds me of the interrogation between Black Widow and Loki.
Yes, that's one of them.
Right at the end of it, it flips its head and goes, oh, Natasha was in control of this the entire time. She was manipulating him. Oh, okay, that's really interesting. And I think actually that's a really good way of sort of going, this is the feel you go for. You're almost supposed to be feeling like one person is in control, completely able to dictate what is happening here, and yet the other person who is feeling a bit more feeble or in a more vulnerable position is actually the one who is controlling it. A similar line to almost what Samuel L. Jackson says, why is it that the person captured is the only person who wants to be on this, helicarrier sort of thing.
This harkens back to a conversation. So going way back in my history time to when I was looking at A-levels to study, and I remember vividly having a conversation with the person who would become my English language teacher about why to study English language. And one of the things he said was he asked a question about who's in the power of this conversation. And the obvious answer is, well, you, because you're doing all the talking, you're telling me all this stuff. But the actual answer, the actual fact is that I had the power in the conversation. And the way I'll explain it, as I've thought about it more since, is basically whoever kills the conversation when they stop talking is in the power.
Yeah.
So if I stop talking in that situation where he's telling me all that stuff, he can talk as much as he wants, but he doesn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
If I just stop talking, interacting. In the same way, if someone comes to your door as a salesman, you have all the power, because if you shut the door in their face, the conversation abruptly comes to an end.
Whoever is needed to
facilitate the other.
Yeah, to give the information or to egg on or to encourage, or that's why in conversation, just in psychology terms, to have a successful conversation, you need engagement from both sides.
Yes, and to make that point, to compare it to this show, the Joker has all the power, because if he just doesn't say anything, as Commissioner Gordon experiences, if he doesn't say anything, Commissioner Gordon can't do anything to get it out of him. I know we've had lots of stuff of like violence and beating him up and stuff, and I want Dick Grayson to do that a little bit, but I don't just want it to become a Dark Knight scene where he just beats him up and just is screaming in his face. Yeah. I want it to be like, I don't know what, but just a tiny bit of he's willing to get closer. He's not threatened or scared by him, sort of thing. And Commissioner Gordon can't do that. Commissioner Gordon, by the law, by he will not attack him or do anything more than just scream in his face. But screaming in his face just makes him laugh more and more and more, which enrages Gordon more and more and more. And there's nothing he can do. It's like talking to a brick wall. And I think that would be just incredible to watch. This would take some powerhouse acting.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, but just watching these performances, I love Gary Oldman's performance. I'm very excited for, I can't remember his name, in Matt Reeves as
Jeffrey
the Batman.
Wright.
Jeffrey Wright, that's him. I'm very excited to see his Gordon. But just I can see both of them in this part. I think that speaks.
I see J.K. Simmons as well. Like, to put it out there, I do see J.K. Simmons, which is a shame that he didn't get more of a chance as.
Yeah, that's the only reason I didn't mention him, was he hasn't done anything. But I can just see all these Gordons. I think they're all excellent casting for him.
Yeah.
I think if you want me to be really nice to something that doesn't deserve it, Gotham. I think you could probably see that commission.
Ben McKenzie is very good.
Yeah.
And actually, to be honest, the interrogation scenes in this and the way that like Cameron Monaghan plays the Joker is a very much more psychological explanation for who he is, and it's as much as there are some ridiculousness going on in there, but like I feel like to be honest, I feel like this is a very much an amalgamation of all the different iterations of these characters. The only one I would be interested to have your opinion on is Harley Quinn in this.
So
she's an intellectual equal to the Joker, I'm guessing, at this point. She's smart, she's witty, as you've said, but why? Like, where do you see her arc after this? Like, do you see her giving herself to the Joker and then just like begrudgingly listening to him afterwards, or is it a case of she slowly like whittles her down?
So the vision that I have in other things I've thought about and considered for writing a Harley Quinn and Joker idea or story, it is quintessential to me that it is a mutual want. I think she wants him to be good and he wants her for chaos, effectively. I wouldn't say evil. I think it's more chaos than evil. And I think there is a meeting of minds in the middle that comes across as still just chaos. But I think there should be in the same way Bane in The Dark Knight Rises is in his own way trying to give power back to the people, taking it from the rich and the powerful and the wealthy. Yeah. I think there is a great weight behind that idea of like, well, these people are just sitting in their ivory towers, not taking part, while you're all poor and loser.
So almost Joker and losing. Opens her. So Joker sort of turns to her and goes, look, well, not in this story, but the psychology that goes on there is Joker shows her, and maybe not in the story, but in general and how it happens is Joker shows her that all the things she tries to do in the world are fruitless.
No, I think the opposite. I think he comes into this very much with the Heath Ledger, Jared Leto chaos. He's just up for craziness and murdering. Yeah. I think what she brings to him is a structured chaos where you would end up with a Joker more like Bane.
Yeah.
Where he has a point, he's trying to achieve something in a chaotic method. And I think what you get with Harley Quinn is she goes from just being this pure interest of the Joker, she's just fascinated by him, to wanting to be like him. But I think there needs to be, in my perfect Joker and Harley Quinn, there is a pull and a to and fro, a pull and a push. There is not a she goes and becomes chaotic like the Joker. There is a he becomes slightly more structured. Mm-hmm. She becomes more chaotic. And I just like that idea because it's very easy to say she's kidnapped. He controls her and manipulates her into being a baddie. But I think that, again, disregards the intelligence of Harley Quinn, saying that she was just so easily manipulated into this. Yeah. I think just as he is manipulating her and he thinks he's succeeding, she is manipulating him and thinks he is succeeding. And if to compare to a different example, Killmonger in Black Panther has a point. He's not doing it the right way, but he has a point. I think that's the sort of Joker crimes I would see committed in this universe once Harley Quinn is fully formed.
Man, if you can make the Joker sympathetic, that would be mental.
Well, I think it's not that he's sympathetic; it's that his points he's going about a point the wrong way.
Yeah,
he's still going for chaos, but he's still trying to achieve something. Again, not trying consciously, but she's manipulated him into working for causes as opposed to working frivolously. Yeah. I think the character in the show is intelligence, but also a very clear naivety if she thinks she is in control.
Right.
She does think that her going with him is a way to save his people, not realizing that he's actually the only reason he's here is to get her to do that. So I think she needs to be intelligent and again think she's on top. They both constantly need to think they're ahead of the other. Yeah. She doesn't care because going with him means she gets to study him.
Yeah.
He doesn't care because her coming with him means he gets her. Yeah?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot that can be done. My only real problem with this idea was can it be done in 60 minutes or would it need to be 90 minutes? And I'm flexible. You know, I'll be willing to be flexible.
Well, I suppose that's a arbitrary question really, because the counter and stuff can be changed. What you'd do is you'd put it into production as a whole script. However long that script ends up being is
just make the timer.
Counter. Yeah.
But one of the other things I do actually enjoy is writing to a time and working to a time. So you have just as you do in general life when you're writing, you have to make a 60-minute drama. You can't make a 53-minute episode drama or whatever. You've got to make
Marvel, Disney.
Yes, but you've got to make typically to fit a time frame. So you have to stretch things out or shrink things down to edit down to that point. And I like the idea that there's scenes that are rushed during the performance, ideas that are got across more quickly than in the script because the actors are also playing to this timeline.
Yeah.
And it would also give a bit of looseness to the show. So each night you might have scenes being paced slightly differently. There's a bit of give, there's a bit of take. If Gordon takes a bit longer to react to the Joker's laugh here, it means Robin has to rush his entrance a bit more here.
Yeah.
And just that idea of the flexibility to pull and push and
almost
tuck
a bit like improv.
Yes, a bit improv-y, but still very structured and scripted, just with the pacing allowing a bit more freedom. Not necessarily each performance being the same, being different every night, but in rehearsal, you have that freedom to play with. Well, Hugo, if you want to play your scene here really slow, you then have to play your next scene really, really quick.
Yeah, each person only has a certain amount of time, just like you would in an interrogation. They'll have like 5 minutes or something like that. So
that's it. That's the idea.
That's
DC Theatre Show.
And I want to work with you to write it.
I do too. I want to work with myself to write back. So DC, if you're out there, please give me the license because I'll do great things for you. Yeah. We both will.
Yeah.
But if you don't, that's just a shame, innit? You're really kind of robbing these lovely audience people who are also for some reason listening at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
Of this brilliant, beautiful thing. What a shame.
Could be the next Cursed Child, but actually good.
I don't know about Cursed Child because it's probably fine and you're probably just being over dramatic. I'm sure it's fine. It looks pretty cool, to be honest. You know, I appreciate all the hate, but I haven't seen it. So what are you gonna do about it? I think it's great. I think it's the best show ever. Best Harry Potter story ever, actually. See, and you can't do anything about it. I'm a voice. This was recorded. You can't fight me, however hard you try. I'll see you in the comments.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Lord.
You ready? You want to have a go?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Want to take this for a while?
I think for mine, I very much looked at the idea of theatre. And I said to myself, okay, we're creating a DC theatre show. Is there anything already in DC that lends itself to theatre? And I came across a character, or a set of characters, who, in my eyes, have been underappreciated in DC for way too long, and actually, I think would be amazing to see on stage.
Yeah.
And that is the wonderful, the marvellous, the magical Zatanna and Zatara. So, to those of you who don't know, Zatara and Zatanna after him, father and daughter, were stage magicians. However, they had a very slight advantage in that they were actually magical.
Slight.
And so, for me, I think it'd be a really great showcase, if you will, of their powers if the first act of this show was actually just that. It was just a show. We start and we end Act 1 as an audience, as the audience, to the magical Zatara and his beautiful daughter, Zatanna, doing their show in Las Vegas, where they bring out all these magical and wonderful illusions before our very eyes. Many of us sat there in complete disbelief. This has to be actual magic. This can't be, real. This can't be just trickery. And then, at the end of Act 1, they do the classic "you can't fool me" trick of bringing an audience member onto stage. This audience member seems a bit different. He seems to know what's going to happen. Not because it's staged. No. Zatanna and Zatara, they don't need to, minimise themselves to that. But because he himself is magic.
Dun dun dun.
We soon realise with the things that he's saying, it's dumbfounding Zatara and Zatanna. It's almost throwing them off, taking them off script, and they're struggling to stay almost in character on stage. And this audience member, he asks a question. He goes, if you want to prove how good you are at magic really, you should be able to bring someone back from the dead. This completely throws off the two magicians on stage, and it confuses and makes a nervous chuckle in the audience. And then this person, he turns around and he says, but you can do that, can't you, Zatara? You've done it before. And I'm asking you now to do it again. Zatara seems to have clicked on. Zatanna, none the wiser, is confused. But Zatara knows who this man is. And he turns and he goes, Trigon, what are you doing here? Trigon, to those of you who don't know.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Trigon is the father of Raven. He, to put it bluntly, he's the devil.
Ooh. This got real.
So Zatara knows Trigon. There's obviously past there. We won't get into it in this, but Trigon is asking him to bring someone back from the dead. Zatara, knowing Trigon is the devil, refuses. Trigon, he came nicely. He tried to be a decent, I wouldn't say human, but person. He tried to ask nicely, at which point he forces Zatara's hand by torturing Zatanna. Zatara still refuses, knowing that his daughter is strong enough to withstand his torture, knowing that Trigon, if he actually was to kill her, would lose his power over Zatara. Zatanna, when inside of this torture, uses her magical abilities to resist the pain. Trigon's never seen anyone manage to do that. He sees this power inside of Zatanna and sees that she eclipses Zatara. So he makes a decision. He realises he can manipulate and force Zatanna, because of her naivety, a lot easier than Zatara. And he kills Zatara. We end Act 1 with Trigon and Zatanna standing over Zatara's body. Trigon leaves just as it finishes and just says the words, "I'll be back," in his best Arnie impression. So we start our Act 2, and all of a sudden, the way that this show has presented itself has changed. We're no longer an audience. We are, but you know what I mean. We're no longer an audience. We're no longer seeing into a magic show. This is afterwards. We are seeing this take place now as a normal show, as you would when you went to a theatre. The lighting's changed. It's less bright. It's more localised. There's no longer any glitz and glamour music over the top. And Zatanna's just being herself. But she's broken. She is distraught. She doesn't know what to do. She knows there's an impending force on its way in the form of Trigon. She turns to the only person she knows she can trust. And that's when we see our first glimpse of her boyfriend, John Constantine.
Ooh.
Constantine's obviously a lot more experienced. He's a bit older. He knows there's a way of getting into hell. And it's through this rituals. So if anyone's watched Legends of Tomorrow, they know Constantine, he is very much someone who doesn't get afraid of using dark magic. Whereas Zatanna is still very young, she's very naive, she trusts Constantine, but doesn't ever really go in the same direction as he does in terms of morals. She's pure, she will be eventually a member of the Justice League. Yes, there'll be questionable decisions about wiping Bruce Wayne's memory a bit in the future, but for now, she just tries to do what's right. And she knows what is right and wrong in terms of magic. And the thing is about Zatanna is her magic is genetic. It's not like Constantine. It doesn't come from knowing spells or anything like that. It's imbued inside of her.
But much like Scarlet Witch, per se.
Well, much like Raven.
Using a different reference for people, come on.
But there's a reason why it's much like Raven a bit later. But the other thing about Zatanna's powers is that they're tied to her self-confidence. The reason why she needs John Constantine is at the moment she's broken. She knows this. And she can't muster up the confidence in herself to do anything, let alone fight off Trigon. So Constantine reassures her. He believes in her, but he knows that the only way to ever defeat Trigon is to bind him. You can't kill him. He is the devil. He is locked into the universe just the same as most other characters, just like Dr. Fate. The helmet of Nobu is something you can't really defeat. So they have to go to hell. And not in that way. So Constantine does his usual sort of I don't know what to call it, seance sort of stuff. Transports them to hell, where in which we see Trigon on his throne. All he has in his hand is a gem. This is the chakra gem, which is on Raven's forehead. It's all he has left of Raven. We don't know in this universe who Raven is. The characters don't know who Raven is, so she's not a member of the Teen Titans at this point. So they have no idea what resurrecting her could do. Obviously, Trigon feels like he can control her. But something has happened which has meant that she's died. Constantine is there, but almost feigning to not actually be doing anything. Trigon underestimates Constantine. He doesn't believe he's any worth anything because he's beaten him 5,000 times plus. He's just merely a mortal. Agreeing to his terms, Zatanna should say, starts to resurrect this unknown girl, who of course is Raven. And Trigon has to imbue some of his own power in order for this to happen. But of course, Zatanna's not strong enough to bind him. She's not strong enough to do anything. And so, as we see her delving into this dark magic in which she knows very little about, only what her father has told her and told her that she can't do. Almost akin to Harry Potter when he's first dueling with Voldemort. We see some ghosts from her past appear.
Dun, 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 dun.
And of course, the only one we see is Zatara. Knowing Zatanna's true potential, knowing that she can overcome anything if she has the confidence in herself, Zatara talks to Zatanna. Now, this isn't the, ghost appearing and just only being able to hear her. As she starts doing this, she goes into her own trance and the whole stage becomes just pure white. And we see no one else apart from these two. This gives Zatanna the confidence needed. She's able to completely almost drain Trigon of a lot of his powers. She still can't do it without actually putting all of his powers into this Raven, who is now being resurrected, because she can't contain the energy herself. She has to give it to someone else. She has to almost flow it into something, and that's how she's doing it. So she's taking Trigon's power and imbuing it into Raven, not knowing what might happen, but knowing that she's got more of a chance of reaching this unknown girl, because just like her, she had these powers forced upon her. She has more of a chance of reaching this girl than she does Trigon. In his weakened state, Trigon is able to be bound to his throne, not able to be moved, not physically actually bound, but as in his spirit, he's bound to that throne. He is not able to leave this place by Constantine. And the trio managed to escape. And I say the trio because there, with Constantine, in Zatanna's arms, is a newly resurrected Raven. And the story ends with Raven's first breath. We still don't know what she's going to be like. We still don't know what might happen. Now, it all sounds so fantastical. It all sounds so out there that we don't know if it even be possible. But I put this to you. The reason why I chose Zatanna and Zatara is because illusion and magic, we see day to day. If you go on YouTube, if you go on Facebook and you just search for magicians, you can see magic happening. All you have to do is believe that it's magic. And this is the thing. It's all about believing and perception. Zatanna's powers are all about her believing she can do magic. And as much as, yes, in real life magic doesn't exist, as much as anyone likes to believe it, it doesn't. We have that ability to fool the people's minds, fool a mass audience. And I think, honestly, the best way that we fool people into believing something is there than it isn't is through your TV screens. And so I hear people probably asking, well, okay, how are you showing hell? How are you making the entire screen white? And I put one thing to you. The Mandalorian. There's this thing called the volume. And on many accounts, you've had people say that when they look into the volume at this dressed set, it feels like the room goes on forever. It feels like you're actually in this place. And so if you were to dress a proscenium theatre with this volume taking up the stage, it can be anything you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I'd put to you, is you go, okay, well, you have the LED screens around the back, you have it on the top, you have the fact that the floor is also this same part of the volume. It can be whatever you want it to be as long as you dress it in certain ways.
So I was very curious how you were going to do all the fantastical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I will maybe put one flaw in your idea of volume.
Yeah.
Which is the way that it creates the effect that it does is by shifting perspective, which is what makes it different than just using a screen.
Yes,
so where the camera moves, the perspective of the horizon changes.
You've got the fact that when people walk into it,
yeah,
and or say, okay, so when the Disney interviews were happening, and I think Jon Favreau was talking about it, where he was saying he was sat there and he was talking to Kathleen Kennedy, and Kathleen Kennedy thought that he was talking to the backers of it, and him and Kathleen Kennedy were in the volume, and they thought they'd created this massive set, because from just an audience point of view, you've got to think about, obviously, a proscenium theatre. I don't imagine it really as being like a classic proscenium theatre. What I'm thinking is the audience are still not a fair bit away from the action, but a little bit further back than the front row would be in a classic theatre. They're able to watch it and just see it from this angle, and to them, because of how their perspective is of the whole thing, it looks like it goes on. It looks like you can't tell where everything is.
I just don't think it would. I like the idea.
That's how practice works. You just figure it out.
Okay, here you go. Then why not just project it then? Wouldn't that have the exact same effect?
It would have. But the thing is about projection is it's all relative to light.
Okay, rear projection.
Again, though, if you can't put front light on rear projection.
Can you put front light on a screen? Because wouldn't it reflect the light?
No, that's how they do lighting in The Mandalorian.
No, they use the screens as for lighting.
No, they use light sources from there and also light it in other ways.
I'm curious. Anyway, how are you going to do the magic?
Well, this is where I do have to go to a thing I've just kind of criticised. And go to the Cursed Child. Because I'm not saying it's going to be wands, as much as Zatanna does have a wand. But you can create magic on stage through the use of pyrotechnics and lighting and obviously body language from people's acting, but also from, I don't know how to explain it. I can't think of the word for it. I can't think of how to explain it, but anyone who's seen The Cursed Child or anyone who's seen parts of The Cursed Child knows that the way they do magic is mostly in an acting, and then you have a suspension of disbelief. The magic from Zatanna and Zatara it's not going to be like big flashes and bangs and stuff like that. They're not like fighting like that, because what it actually is illusion. So you have so take the big sort of like resurrection part of it. You could very easily go, it's going to be cheap and you're going to have smoke coming from it, and that's what symbolises the magic, and it's just their acting. But actually, the way I see it is through light. You can have, I can't remember what the word for them are, but you can have these sort of like touch sensitive like light panels that you almost, not light panels, but like imagine a glove, right? It has loads of little LEDs in it, and when you touch something with it, because it's touch sensitive, it lights up.
Yeah.
So Zatanna, in order to resurrect this gem, holds it in one hand and puts her other on Trigon.
Yeah.
And then the light starts to pulse and it looks like it's coming, because it's theatre and you're not right up next to it, it looks like it's coming from underneath, almost like she's
that'd work.
Pulsating it. And then obviously we go to this
pretty cool
huge white room, and then it goes to and then when it goes back, Zatanna is no longer there clutching this gem, but there's a body there now. Raven is now there, and again it's the same. You've got this pulsating light underneath her hands. And the thing is about Constantine's magic is that a lot of it's in sort of like satanic like pentagram circles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the easiest way of doing them is having them on the floor, and then as he starts chanting, their LEDs themselves, they start lighting up, and it's with light and then with acting, and it's almost like it's illusion. You stop looking at something so much that it starts becoming something you didn't expect. So yeah, it's cool. A difficult thing to be able to put out there without a massive amount of rehearsal and a lot of technical aspects of it.
Yeah, but it's just like the Cursed Child, but you'd have to spend a lot of time testing and trialing and making things look just so.
But that first act, I just find it brilliant to have this idea of slowly descending into something more. You probably get halfway through the first act when they bring up a member of the audience, and so Trigon probably participates in a few things, and maybe it doesn't go quite as to plan because he's magic as well, so they can't do the things that they were doing, say, in the first session. But of course, it's magic. It's actually magic that we would pay to go and watch somewhere.
Yeah, I really like using them, because yes, you are going to see a Zatanna and Zatara show, and then it goes off the rails. You're not going to see this performance of a comic book story of resurrection. You're going to see Zatanna and Zatara do a magic show. Oh, it's all gone wrong. Yeah. It's a very, very cool idea. I very much like it. I'd be very interested to see how you compare the magic at the start to the magic later, and if it's like the first lot is sort of like Penn and Teller real magician's tricks that they're doing, but cheating with magic, and then later it becomes illusion, or you mix in, or that would be quite cool.
Well, I think that's the thing. The idea kind of actually came to me. So we came up with this idea of doing a DC theatre show, and I was like, oh, gosh, what am I going to do? Obviously, I'm a big fan of DC, so I was thinking, could I do Green Arrow? Obviously, I'm a massive Flash fan. Is there a way of doing Flash? No, they're ridiculous. It's just too much. And I was thinking, obviously, the obvious choice is Batman, and we both sort of said we're not going to do Batman. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I watched WandaVision, where in the second episode, the magic pair do a magic show, and I went, there's something here, right, okay. And so, it would be almost, there wouldn't be that level of, we're going to reveal to you and cheap tricks sort of thing. It would still be very much a magic show where you went and go, I have no idea how they did that. Yeah. But it'd be mostly card based. It'd be mostly like pulling rabbits out of the hat. The usual sort of thing that you'd see in a magic show. And then the switch is the fact that, it's illusion. It's misdirection at the start. Whereas it is full, in-your-face magic in the second half, where it's just, no, we're not hiding this anymore. This is someone doing magic.
Yeah, that's cool. That's exciting. Yeah. I think there are very few ways of pulling off a comic book show, a comic book theatre show, and trying to take something that's designed to be this super hyper real, not hyper real, hyper unreal. Not really sure what the phrasing would be, but all these superpowers and all this stuff. But I think going down a route of using, they just have magic, so we'll just do a magic show. Is a very clever way of switching that out, compared to trying to do something like, say, the Flash, where you're trying to theatricalize his super speed rather than using someone with powers that fit in a theatrical setting. Like,
well, exactly. That's the thing. Is like you watch, like any superhero movie, any superhero TV show, unless it's physical beat 'em up like Daredevil, has to have special effects.
Yeah.
To take an idea like that and put it into theatre, it just doesn't work because you can't digitally edit something before someone's eyes. Which is why TV has taken a while to catch up, because it's only recently that they've been able to do digital editing in TV to an extent that it actually looks good. I think the best example of almost a fantastical superpower sort of being on TV for very little digital editing was Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Where a lot of it's pyrotechnics and just good timing and stuff like that.
And costumes.
In costume. And I think that taking that sort of idea of going, okay, there's a way of doing it as practical special effects that make it look good and believable without breaking the immersion by going, and you've got to believe that this is magic now. Like, yeah, there's a very limited number of characters that would work for.
Yeah. I think if you compare it to another recent example in WandaVision, when they do the 50s and 60s episodes, they're using like cups on strings, sort of magic, sort of effects to show her magic, and just the way they low tech down what her magic is doing compared with the stuff she does later it's really cool to see. And I think it's a reason to go if your family aren't interested in the superhero bit, at least they're going to enjoy the magic show.
Yeah, exactly. I did consider having it as just the first act as the entire show.
Yeah.
But for me, I think, like you've done almost, some of the most interesting parts of the DC characters is their psychological profile.
Yes.
And I feel that exploring Zatanna's use of self-confidence, her relationships with people, the way that she works, and also adding this mystery of, you know, who's this person going to be? Oh my gosh, it's Raven. What's going to happen there? Is a really good exploration of the character. Otherwise, it'd just be a showcase. It'd just be a show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, what's it called? What are we naming this?
Mine is just The Marvelous Magical Zatara and Zatanna.
Oh, that's pretty good. Because obviously then you're almost pitching it as just the magic show.
Mm-hmm.
So I really struggled with this. I just didn't know what to call it. Because half of me wants to just call it something vague, something thing, but you need to get the DC brands, the Joker, the Batman into the title. So we'll make it Batman and then subtitle it something, but Batman's not in it. Don't want no parents showing up to this show. So I might just rattle off a few and then you can pick for me. Mm-hmm. So one of the ideas I had was Code Joker. In terms of that's the situation Gotham is in, they're under Code Joker. Just calling it something like the Joker : interrogation, but that just seems dull. That just seems rubbish. And then the only other thing was something along the lines of I'm trying to think of how to phrase it, but something story driven, something that's a line in the show that's taken into. I quite like Code Joker. I might stick with that.
I think the idea of using something police-based is a good idea, because they're then going into it going, I'm watching this almost from the police's point of view. You could almost, I don't know what the exact terminology for it is, but you could almost call it Interrogation Room B. I don't know. Like, and then like
I know what you mean.
Like the something Joker.
I think like you've got the. Go on, what's yours? What's yours again?
The Marvelous Magical Zatara and Zatanna.
And I'm going to go with Code Joker.
Yeah, cool.
So, thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. I think we've both quite enjoyed trying to shoehorn the worlds of DC into a theatrical stage.
Yeah.
And I think this is definitely something we'll be returning to the idea of theatre. I think one of the things that we want to do different with these pitches is we want to make them not just your movies, your TV shows, your spin-offs, which is what, if you're watching this now, you'll have seen on our channel. But we want to add more different ideas to be pitching different things. So things that you haven't...
To immerse ourselves into these franchises. Because one of the things that, I don't know if you find, I find with a lot of the franchises is that you've got TV, movies, and then merchandise.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy books that explore things. I really enjoy comic books where obviously a lot of this comes from. I really enjoy the video games and these different things that have a way of consuming franchise material.
I think if you want to put it differently, what we're doing, DC or Marvel or whoever's listening, is basically we're finding ways for you to make more money. So again, just a little hint. If you want this to be done, just like give us the license, give us a bit of money, pay us a little bit, and we'll sort you out. You don't even have to pay us.
If you do it for yours, just give us the rights to allow us to do it. We'll do it and show you how much money it can make.
Yeah, we'll do it. That'll be fine. We just don't want to be arrested for copyright, so we can't make it. So, but if you let us make it, so if you, Billy Bob, sitting at home,
is that the head of DC?
This is just some guy who knows the head of DC, whose dad is the head of DC.
Yeah.
Or mum is the head of DC. I don't actually know who the head of DC is at the moment. You go and tell them that there's two guys very happy to do this for you.
Two dudes.
We'll work... Two dudes, in fact. Yeah, that would have made more sense.
God damn it.
We work for a very modest fee.
Job.
And we just want to do this because it's fun. So, leave a comment. Let us know what you guys thought of these shows. If you'd want to watch them, what would you do? What would you put on stage? Any ideas you've got of something you want us to pitch? Like, subscribe, check us out on all the podcasting platforms, and we will see you next time on The Two Dudes.
See you soon.